Welcome to Hoopty Doodle, everybody! So today we're working on the CB500 project and we're going in a scramble-like direction with this thing. I'm not sure that it totally qualifies as a scrambler, but we're adding adventure bike features to this bike that will definitely give it off-road sort of feel to it and hopefully functionality as well. Not totally, I mean it's not going to have the suspension travel, but it's going to have some features that will make it more capable off-road than it currently is. Or maybe just be like total badass on the dirt road, yeah. So today we're focusing on the rear subframe of the bike. We're gonna be chopping off extraneous bits on the rear and adding in a hoop. We're gonna weld in a hoop on the subframe. And this is a common modification on Cafe Racer and adjacent projects, and it will give us a good basis for the rest of our project. So I want to take this seat apart, take all this extra stuff off of here and see what we got for subframe, because we're not going to be using pretty much any of this stuff, but I am going to be using this frame down here on the bottom. So I want to get this apart and see what we got going on. So one thing I had trouble with was there's a lock right here, but this key does not work on it for whatever reason. I don't know. So in order to circumvent that, this is busted, I can just yank that off. In reality, I'm gonna cut this frame thing off anyways. Let's just do that, huh? I'm gonna cut that right off because I'm gonna grind this down to the bare frame here. I'm definitely not using this, so I'm gonna cut it off on this side and off on that side, and then this thing will come right off and you don't have to worry about it anymore. First chop of this build. Exciting stuff, man. Choppy chop. See what was going on with this thing. Nothing is what's going on. I'm gonna go ahead and take the rest of this plastic off on the sides here. Alright, so now it requires disconnecting these connectors here so that I can pull them through this plastic piece here. Alright, tail teddy is off. Now we've got this piece of plastic, and that runs the entire underside of the bike here. Not sure, I'm definitely not going to be using it, but will I be using a portion of it? Alright, now we're going to take the battery out so that I can get better access, because I'm sure there's got to be a bolt or underneath the battery or something. And yes, there is a bolt down there. So looking down the battery tray, there is one single bolt right there. And I'm going to remove that and see if this whole tray, whole plastic under piece here will come off. Alright, and then now we just got some wiring that's running through here. I think that's what's holding it up. So I need to sort of take these things off. Alright, and then like right here, there's a little cable tie that is strapping this cable bit to the frame, but it's a releasable cable tie, so I should be able to get in here, pry this apart. Alright, so after removing several clips holding electronics wiring to this plastic piece here, I should be able to get this out now, I believe. Yeah. Look at that tail piece. So now I need to actually go in here and clean up all this stuff, because what I'm trying to get down to is just the bare frame, basically the bare frame tubes, the main stuff here. So all this extra stuff, this guy, and this guy have all got to go. So I'm going to cut those off and grind that down, and then I've got this hoop. So I'm going to try and make this hoop piece fit on the back here, where I basically, you can see back here, the stock part just has these tubes, just open tubes back here. I'm going to close up the top tube here with this guy, put an actual hoop on there, and then the bottom ones we're gonna close those up as well, but I'll do that after I've got this guy on. All right, everything's ground down on here right now. Our next steps are to figure out how to fit the hoop on the end here. So what I'm trying to do is get this guy on here and make it fit the curve of these guys. You can see this one sort of starts to bend in. Those are both bending in a little bit. This guy is going down straight, but there is a point at which they all meet up. So I think I can get this on here, cut this thing specifically so that the curves meet up and it looks good actually. I'm specifically trying to put the hoop on the top tube right here so it loops around right there. In order to do that, I'm gonna need to be able to weld all the way around this tube. So in order to do that, I need to make clearance on the bottom here, which means I need to cut this to some degree, which means this thing on the bottom is kind of in the way. So I'm thinking about cutting this bottom sort of bracket thing off and then cutting this part down here, trimming that tube back. Alright, so if you happen to notice in the last shot when I cut this last brace down here off, that these things sort of popped apart a little bit and they actually spread apart like an inch more than what they were before. And luckily I had measured what they were before, the outside dimensions here, so that I knew it had gone out a whole inch. And now I've pulled them back in because luckily we have this mega C-clamp here, a 10-inch clamp, and I just put that on here and just pull these guys back together. So that's what I've done, and they line up nice this way where they're not like tilted or anything like that. So I'm happy there as well. And now we're back to square one. I've got all these things cleaned up around here. I've got my extra metal cleaned up so that I should be able to get in here and weld now and get these things on here in terms of putting my hoop on. The hoop, now I just sort of have to figure out where I want it and all that stuff. But before I really get that far, I gotta make some slugs. I gotta make a slug that goes inside there and another slug that goes inside there. And that's what I'm gonna use to connect into this piece. And then we'll weld around those and make a nice clean connection, nice strong connection. And that brings us over to the metal lathe. So over here, our goal basically is to take this guy and shave off this whole diameter basically of this thing so that it will fit inside here. Right now these are the same dimension, where this is a 1-inch rod basically and this is a 1-inch outside diameter tube. We need this rod to fit inside that tube, so we got to shave it down. Very luckily we have a lathe, so I'm going to stick this guy in the lathe, start trimming it off a bit. Alright, so I'm just going to shave it down a little bit at a time, test fit in my tube, and then keep shaving until it fits in there, and that's where we want to be. See how close we are. Oh, it's close. Make it just a little bit narrower, that's all. Alright, let's try this out. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. That's pretty good. Might be a little bit looser than I want, but I think that'll work. So that's that, and then tomorrow I'm gonna come back out here and cut this part off, and then we'll try and shape this one way or another. Hello everyone, we're looking at this motorcycle again. Basically I'm gonna cut this part off, the trimmed up portion, cut that off, and then we're gonna cut it in half. So we've got little sections about like that, and those are gonna be our slugs, our 2 slugs. And then I'm gonna take that slug for each side, stick them in here, and I'm gonna tack, just put one little tack on the side here, and then we'll mess around with fitting this guy, cutting this down and making it fit on that slug basically. Then once the slug's in there, I can start grinding the slug away itself and sort of custom fit it so this can slide on there. Then once we get to that point, we'll go ahead and fully weld it all the way around. Now I need to scarf or bevel the edges on this guy here, which quite literally means making a 45-degree angle all the way around here. And what that'll do is help give some filler material to help bond the two tubes together. Alright, and then on here I have gone ahead, I've marked the halfway point here with this little red dot, and I've also clamped this in these vice grips so that I don't lose it down the tube here accidentally. So I'm gonna set this guy in. I'm gonna go to the halfway mark, and then I'm gonna put a little weld, a little tack right in here to help hold this in, and then we're gonna start grinding away at this guy to shape it to a point where I can get this hoop on there. I got both my slugs in here. I've got them both marked at the halfway point. I'm gonna go ahead and tack them in now. All right, I've got these tacked in, and my next step is to go ahead and actually cut out the hoop. So I've got my hoop up here, and I'm trying to get to the point where I can cut the hoop. I've got a magnet on one side, and I've got a piece of flat stock on the other side, and I'm using these as little barriers to hold the hoop within the parameters of the subframe and give me an idea of where the outside edges are. So with that, I'm trying to align everything up and see how it fits on there and mark it to where I can cut it. Alright, so now we've got the hoop roughly cut out. It's going to require more shaping from here, but we've got that started. And our next step is I need to go in here and grind this thing. I need to basically put like a little bit of an angle, cut off this section here so that it rounds more like that. Do that on both sides, and then we'll try and start test fitting this hoop on here and get it fit in a little bit closer, and then hopefully we'll get to the point where we can then weld it in. Alright, so after a good bit of finagling, and I had to do some more cutting on the inside here so that we could I would be able to start this thing on here. Otherwise it was hitting the inside. These little parts right here were hitting the inside part and not allowing me to even get on to the little slug there. So a little bit more grinding on the slug, and now I can get this thing on here pretty good. It goes on real well there, and then you have to tap it in with a hammer, and then it goes on over there more. So before I do that though, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna bevel these edges as well, and we'll tap it on here, and then we'll weld that sucker in. Yeah! All right, time to weld this thing in. Yeah! Yeah! Alright, we can now rejoice. The hoop is on. Here it is. I've got it welded on. I need to go through and grind these welds down so they're nice and smooth. But it's fully welded at this point. And then we still need to go through and cap off these things on the bottom. I've got them slanted pretty much the way I want them, I believe, at this point. And I just need to cap those off. And then this tail end section will be done for now. We still need to come back later and make some mods. These little pipes that are running through both sides here, I'm going to utilize that, I believe, for my rack hookup, so I can bolt a rack on there. But I'm going to need to add another very similar one down here somewhere, and probably utilize one of these holes to do that. And then of course there's going to be tail light and license plate light holder things that go on the back here as well. So we're not done yet back here. So that's going to do it for this video for today. We're going to be doing a lot more modification on this subframe though. Most of the modifications or the most heavily modified aspect of this bike is going to be this rear subframe. We're still going to need to build a tray for the bottom of the subframe here, as well as a seat pan that goes over the top here, and then the foam and the upholstery for the seat all still need to happen. So look forward to those things happening, as well as a rear taillight housing thing somewhere along the line also happening. So see you next time. Thanks for watching and keep on wrenching.